Hey, my name's Max. If you've been following along, I am a transgender man that is preparing to flee the United States.
Or do you seek asylum in Canada?
Why are you crying? By the way, I see you recorded this on my birthday, so unless you're overwhelmed with gratitude at my existence, I don't get it. I notice you turned your head so we can see the tear roll down your right cheek. Nice touch, but I think you're milking it. Girl, why are you crying and not saying anything? What is this, the Selena Gomez challenge? First world refugees coming right up. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Okay, this video this person put out on my birthday, which was a couple of weeks ago now, and I wanted to talk about it for the sheer dramatics of it. I mean, the absolute theatrics of future asylum seekers, which is what this person is. And originally, I wasn't gonna do a video on this one, but then I noticed that there were more and more of these showing up on TikTok, so that's why I wanted to alert you guys, because this is the next growing movement in the ever so insufferable trans activist community. And I'm gonna be real honest, these people work my nerves, and daily I pray to the good Lord that he gives me the strength that they lack. Because especially with the ones like this in particular, which I have seen a few different variations of this, I feel like it's a total manipulation, because I know not everybody's on TikTok. I'm barely on TikTok. But if you're familiar with TikTok at all, you know that TikTok has an editing feature within the app. You don't even have to go outside of the app in order to edit. And you could easily just edit out the crying part, especially right here at the beginning. So we're gonna go through this video. I'm not gonna put you guys through the punishment of starting over from the beginning of the video, because I think you get the point. It's just crying. So we'll pick it up where it's at, and you can let me know how you feel about it at the end. But I will give you a little bit of a spoiler alert. By the time I was through watching this video, I figured out why it really bothered me. And it's not as superficial as just the fact that it's an obvious manipulation. So if you'll notice, still crying. Do you see why I didn't want to deal with this on my birthday? I had to prepare myself for the emotion of it all.
How could I have ever seen something like this coming? I mean, it's January 28th, 2025.
I love how they give the date sort of like it's a captain's log. January 28th, 2025.
And I've already known that I need to relocate from Florida to New York as a refuge for safety.
Okay, but if you know anything about Florida, yeah, their laws are a little bit wacky and they're always on the news for doing something crazy, but Florida is a gay haven. And the reason I think the dramatics are so unnecessary in this case is because if everybody knows you in your particular area and you're not acting like a creep, none of these laws really affect you. I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this person is female to male trans. So started off female and now lives and presents as male. And they're passable enough that nobody's gonna question it. They're just gonna assume that he's a little man. And we're all used to little men. I'm a little man. Little men do exist. The little man community will not be erased. But in all seriousness, what rights do you think you're losing in Florida that you're gonna find in New York? All you're gonna be doing is living the same life but paying more rent. Now clean it up, Mary, and tell us why you're wearing the gloves.
It's so overwhelming. I don't know where to start.
If you're serious about moving, I would say look into apartments.com first, then go find yourself some boxes, then start hitting up friends and ask for recommendations on an honest moving company. Do you know how hard it is to find an honest moving company in this country? That's what we should really be protesting about.
Just uprooting your life like this, you know, do Do you just go to New York and hope that the laws there protect you? Not knowing what the government might do or make worse, the US government, not the New York.
Look, sweetie, I'm sure you're a nice goyle and all, but New York is gonna eat you alive. If you're already crying about some stuff that hasn't even happened yet, and you're this shaky in life, I really don't think you're gonna make it in New York. Have you been watching the news? You're gonna fold the first time somebody tries to set you on fire in the subway in New York. The first time someone tries to push you onto some tracks, it's gonna be over. I mean, the moment someone stabs you for calling them out for trying to cut in front of you in the deli line, you are an absolute goner. So if you really do decide to leave Florida, I would say you should look into Portland or Seattle, because New York is not going to be a safe space for you, Chicken Little.
Or do you seek asylum in Canada?
I don't think you need to seek asylum. I think you need to be admitted to an asylum, because this is crazy talk. And have you ever considered that Canada may not want you? Everybody's always like, I'm just going to move to Canada. And I really do think that this person and the rest of the trans community are in for a rude awakening when they go to seek asylum in these different countries and they start getting denied. Because I honestly do believe that's what's going to happen in a lot of these cases. I don't think these people understand the seriousness of what seeking asylum actually means. And I could be wrong, but I always thought asylum was meant for people that are truly under some sort of threat. Not just the fact that your president's actions or words make you feel a little uneasy. And I'm gonna warn you right now, or maybe I should say I'm gonna make a prediction. I honestly feel like the trans activist community and people like this are gonna make asylum mean nothing, just like they made the word trans mean nothing. And I would also predict that if they're not careful, they're going to mess up the asylum process for actual asylum seekers, just like they messed up trans rights and allowances for actual trans people.
Today's the 8th day of his presidency, and I can't really say that I have slept very well.
Well, there's your problem right there, Miss Loretta. A bitch need a nap. Now go pop yourself some melatonin, or an Ambien if you have access to it, and get you some nap time affirming care, girl.
Seeing other people and hearing about other people having, their documents confiscated.
Nobody is having their documents confiscated. Stop trying to make it sound like you're dealing with the Gestapo. Because the truth is, they're just not issuing new or renewed passports with your preferred gender marker on them. That's also happening with other legal documents. And it's something that not only makes a lot of sense to most of us, but it's also something that you guys, and when I say you guys, I mean the trans community in general, or I should say the trans activists more specifically, had ruined for everybody. For years and years and years, people were getting their documents changed with no problems. And then all of a sudden, within less than 10 years, the radical trans activists ruined it for everybody else. And that's why I say that you guys should be careful not to do this exact same thing with actual asylum seekers. And when you say things like this and everybody knows that that's not the reality of what's going on, you really do hurt your own cause and your own credibility, because this is why people are starting to think that the trans community is just lying about everything and panicking about everything. It really is turning into a boy who cried wolf story, because you guys will say things are going down a particular way, and then people will actually do the research on their own, or they'll stumble on a video like mine and they'll realize that you guys are lying or exaggerating or coloring the truth to make yourselves seem like perpetual victims, and people have gotten tired of it. People are over it, and now nobody takes the movement seriously anymore. And that's why you're really suffering right now, because people aren't willing to protest on your behalf anymore. In about 2016 was when they introduced the first trans bathroom bill, and I believe it was North Carolina. I'll go ahead and check my facts on this, and if I'm incorrect, I'll post something right here to correct it. But in about 2016 was the first time they introduced a bathroom bill in North Carolina, and celebrities lost it, refused to perform in North Carolina, and businesses pulled out of North Carolina. There was so much trans support at that time that it really hurt North Carolina. Then, if you remember, Orange is the New Black had Laverne Cox on it. You notice nobody ever said anything about about the fact that Laverne Cox was a trans woman playing a character that was housed in a women's prison. I wonder why that would be. Maybe because at that time, people saw trans people as a non-threat. Maybe because at that time, people saw trans people as the underdog. So ask yourselves, and stop looking to the rest of us or stop looking at the president, but ask yourselves how people like you and the rest of the trans community have taken the movement from damn near acceptance to all the way being rejected. And like I said, ask yourselves. This isn't one you come to us for, because a lot of us in the beginning had your backs. A lot of us really did understand the cause. Then it got to a point where it got completely nonsensical. Then it graduated from that to outright disrespectful. And then it tried to move into plain out oppressive. So now you've all been stopped and you don't like the results of what your actions brought on. So cry longer, cope harder, handle it how you have to handle it. But I personally would say take a nap.
And ICE going after these individuals because of who they are. And it's
See, there you go lying again. ICE going after these people because of who they are. You don't gotta lie to kick it, Smokey. ICE ain't going after these people because of who they are. ICE is going after these people because of what they've done. The borders are, Tom Homan has already talked about it. Donald Trump himself has talked about it, and who they're going after are threats to the American public and people that have already been convicted of crimes since being in the United States. So again, I'm going to ask you to stop misrepresenting things and also run back to your friends and tell them to do the same, because it's really not going to work out in your favor. Before we go any further, I'm just going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We just passed 69K. We are absolutely destroying it, you guys. So hit the subscribe button, and when you do, click the bell to set it to all notifications so that you know every time I upload. Now let's get on with this video.
I'm trying to just, keep it, a level head and keep it cool.
Well, you're doing a horrible job at it. If this is your idea of keeping it level-headed and keeping it cool, I'm gonna hate to see when you fall apart, because this ain't it, Chief. I mean, maybe you identify as keeping it level-headed and keeping it cool, but in this regard, you are not passable.
Not be emotional about what's going on. Been looking at, the Rainbow Railroad, which is a charity that helps LGBTQ plus individuals who are seeking refuge to safer places.
They are going to laugh at you. These are truly first world problems. Do you realize that there are some places in the world where being LGBT, any one of the letters, is punishable by death? But you're completely taking a spot that could go to somebody that's dealing with that as a potential consequence, because you can't have the gender marker changed on your passport, because you can't have a driver's license that properly represents what you feel inside. And I'm not even going to try to make it sound like I'm surprised, because this makes perfect sense with how spoiled, selfish, and entitled the modern trans movement is.
But looking at, Canadian websites and the laws of how do you seek asylum there, and I keep going back and forth, it's just a lot. So I figured I would at least post a video to social media. Maybe there are other folks there who are going through the same situation. I'm sure they are. I know hundreds of trans folks, right? And I can only imagine the fear that you are going through.
Yeah, I have no doubt there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other trans people going through this, because you guys are a panicky bunch. To the point where I honestly feel like you all manifested this. You all were always talking about how your rights were being taken away and your personhood was being stripped away from you and you were being erased, and none of that was happening. When you guys were really pushing that the most, you had the most support, but it still wasn't enough for you. So you all just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and constantly repeating these things over and over and over, sort of like a mantra. And now I will be honest with you when I say that what you're saying is happening in different ways, because trans people had far more rights before you guys started all this madness. I would even go so far as to say that my trans friends in the 90s and early 2000s had more rights and privileges than you guys have now. So again, ask yourselves how badly you had to mess this up that we went back in time. Do you realize that things don't usually go back in time? Things usually just continue to progress and move forward and get better. It's not just about people having this blind hate towards you. You guys just pushed too far. You flew too close to the sun and you burnt your pashmina. And my suggestion, again, more unsolicited advice, but my suggestion would be to start thinking happier thoughts. Start thinking more positive thoughts. Otherwise, we're going to see what other doom and gloom you guys can curse yourselves with through the power of manifestation, because you all never learn.
I'm just, when is the right time to start moving? You want to play your cards right, but you also want to make sure that you can, afford it.
Now you want to try to act rational? These people kill me because they're panicking about nothing, but then they'll act like, let me straighten up my skirt, tighten my bun, and show what a logical person I am. And it's like, you're panicking over nothing. This is all crazy talk. But now you want to act like, I'm going to pull it together. You really can't write this stuff. My imagination could never be this good.
So anything and everything is appreciated. If you could just comment on this video. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, big surprise ending to this one. This person either deleted or deactivated their TikTok because I really wanted to see what the update was with this particular person and if they had started to be a little more logical. But I would imagine that TikTok kind of ate them up, because even TikTok, and this should tell you how bad things have gotten as far as people just being over the crying and the whining and the constant I'm the victim from the trans activist community and trans people like this specifically. And I always try to be very clear about that, because you guys do not understand that the average trans person is not like this. Unfortunately, this is turning into the majority of what calls itself trans at this point, but most trans people have already dealt with more oppressive situations as far as what they were able to get away with here in the United States and the way that they were treated in society in general. There was a point when things were just as bad as these people are possibly going to take it back to if they're not careful, and I really hope they don't. But at the same time, it's nobody else's fault if they do. Because these people really don't understand. They have made it so the term trans means absolutely nothing. They're on their way to making it so asylum and refugee status doesn't mean anything, because they're going to abuse that system. And these really are first world problems. And that is what bothers me the most about this particular situation. It does bother me that there are people that legitimately do need to seek asylum for various reasons, not just LGBT obviously, but there are people that have real problems that genuinely need to seek asylum, and these people want to abuse that system because they're not going to get gender markers changed on their documents. And I even saw a video of one trans person that was saying that they're hoping to go to Europe because if you have a European passport and something goes bad in the first place that they pick, then they can just move to another place in Europe.
The reason I'm thinking Europe in general is because once you get an EU passport, it is incredibly easy to travel to other European countries. I know a lot of countries are starting to lean more right, and I want to be able to travel if need be, if I need to flee a second time, which I really hope doesn't happen.
And the truth is, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can make another prediction on this. If I did have a crystal ball, I would imagine that if I stared into it for long enough, it would tell me country by country, for as long as it takes, a lot of what were considered trans rights are going to be rolled back. And not because people are hateful towards them, but because they really have pushed it. If you look at what's happening in Australia right now, in Australia, women have so few rights compared to trans women that it really does let you understand how blessed we are in where we're at and what our government is doing to roll things back. If you look at or listen to what people are saying in the UK is going on right now, not only are they losing rights as genetic females, but they're also not even allowed to talk about it. It's considered hate speech to a point where a lot of people have to be anonymous on social media. And yeah, I do get tired of some of those people because some people don't understand that I'm speaking from an American perspective. So they'll come at me saying that I'm being a little too level-headed when everything is crashing down. And I'm like, well, things aren't crashing down over here. Actually, we're correcting. So I'm sorry that you're not in the same spot we are, but I'm not going to act like I'm living under the same panic that you are or living under the same constraints or restraints that you are, when that's just not the reality of where I'm at. But what I do know is that right now, a lot of the opposite side of that movement is also coming off as crazy and unhinged and not realizing it. And I really do feel like that's slowing down their process and rolling some of this back. Because if your leaders aren't listening to you say it the way that you're saying it, and it's maybe because you are coming off as a particular way, that being hateful or whatever else, if you notice, here in the United States, for the most part, a lot of people kept it pretty civil, but just let it be known that these things were going too far. And yeah, it took us a little while, but if you look at how long it was from the actual madness starting to where we're at now, it's a relatively quick amount of time that we've had our turnaround. It's just a lot of other countries are at a different point in their process. So they may be a little more behind in certain areas as far as where they are in their progression of this experiment that we call trans. Just like there are certain places, like I can't remember if it was Sweden or Switzerland, one of those SW countries, but either Sweden or Switzerland had a point where they were really doing gender affirming care for minors, and they realized quicker than anybody else, because they were so progressive about it, that it really wasn't a good course of action for minors. So they were ahead of us and everybody else because they started ahead of us and everybody else. So while I am sympathetic, empathetic, whatever thetic I have to be other than pathetic to what different people are going through in different countries, you have to also understand that we're not in the same spot right now. Like, we are actually making the changes that a lot of us feel are necessary. So my actual point as far as these people go is, I think that they may seek refugee status somewhere and that may work out for a short while, but eventually that place is going to start rolling back the crazy too. So whatever reason you went there for is just going to cause you to keep moving from place to place until you realize that there are no options other than being the real you, which is what you claim to be already. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see a video of me talking about Cat Williams absolutely destroying a Mexican heckler, click the video on your screen. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.